All right. Well, thanks for joining us for our December 2022 edition of our Kentucky CIO EdTech Leaders webcast. I'm with David Couch with the Department of Education. Thanks for joining us this morning before everyone takes a Christmas and New Year's and holiday break. Appreciate your time this morning. We have Go Soapbox available. We have 5 questions there, but also Go Soapbox has been really nice over the years to where someone can post something and the most common one, it's kind of like a group sourcing where everyone kind of votes on it and kind of the ones bubble to the top that we can immediately see. So I encourage you to take a look at that, fill out the poll questions. I also have joining me in this live studio audience in my office is Marty Park and Chuck Austin. They are over against the wall here in our studio here, studio office here. But once again, thanks for joining us. So we're going to do a couple of fun things at the beginning. I want to give you some context. So I feel a lot of ways that we're getting ready to show. I feel like I'm like Clark Griswold in that movie Christmas Vacation, where he climbs up. I know if you've watched that, most people have. He climbs up in the attic. He gets stuck there, and he finds that he has some old tapes, videos there of family. And he's sitting there watching them all balled up. So it's kind of like that was like for me yesterday is some of the videos that we had taken in 1992 and 93 of the Kentucky Education Technology System right at was birth. I had watched them for the very first time and seen them for the very first time. And I want to take you a little bit back in history before we show them. And I want to brace you for some of the things you will be seeing, and the people you will be seeing are not. They may not be recognizable to you, but it's fun to go back and see some of those things 30 years later. So obviously when we started in 1992, there was no internet across the state. In fact, most of you know is when we started putting the internet in all districts, for nearly every county in Kentucky, it was the largest internet link ever put in that county, the first and the largest that was ever put in. And once again, we did that in an 11-month period. But before that, we had a really neat thing here in Kentucky that nearly every other state did not have. And we had something called Kentucky Educational Television, KET. And KET was the very first, and Kentucky was the very first to have educational television to every school in its state. And still, all these years later, when KET started in late 60s and early 70s, and I can remember as a youngster, mom had me watch KET, is for the most part, KET is still unique in the United States as far as the area that it covers across an entire state, just not for the school systems, but for its general population. And so before we had the internet, is we used to go to a studio in Lexington where KET is headquartered. Now, keep in mind that studio, I don't know if it was the size, probably was the size of this office, right? It wasn't large. And so keep in mind, I had just come, I had just transitioned from being a U.S. Army officer to work for the Kentucky Department of Education, which I don't know if you can hit a bigger, wider swing than that. I'm going from a different customer base, that's for sure. And I can remember, whoa. That's not broken. Who did that, Chuck? Did you move that over? So we're sitting there, and I've never presented to an audience looking at a camera. So you come into KET, and they have these people on the floor that they're doing a lot of different things, and you see these big cameras, and you get this feeling I am broadcasting to a kabillion people. But I noticed when I walked in, the very first time I walked in the KET studio, is they had some people with wet mops that were wiping the floor, and they also had people that were wiping a table that you sit at. And I was the only one to be sitting there. And so there's a lot of commotion going on. I said, why you guys mop the floor every time after you give one of these? Because that's where a lot of the broadcasts were done. When we did anything instructionally, from to go to school buildings, we would go to KET, and then the staff would no matter what the instructional content and film it there. So what they told me is They said the person right before you, as we gave the countdown, 10, and they're on the floor, they're going 10, 9, 8, 7, making just a little bit like what you did. And when they hit 0, the person before me threw up all over the table and all over the floor and passed out. Totally passed out. And so what they were doing, they were cleaning that all up when I got there. And so I remember going, all I got to do is beat that right there. If I beat that right there, I've been successful. And I can remember the very first ones that I was ever doing is just trying to get past the first 10 seconds. I said, if I can get past the first 10 seconds and don't talk too fast, because there's a tendency to do that. You're nervous, talk super fast. And when you're coming out of the gate, it just tried to be very calm and relaxed with it. And I can remember I did feel that rush, and I know what they're talking about. When you have people going 10, 9, 8, and you're getting ready to go live, I felt that for sure, but I did not throw up all over the table and all over the floor and pass out. So it was a successful venture from that point of view. But it really does show the good teamwork we've had with KT and Katie, which is, once again, you hear me highlight these things that are unique in the United States. That is a unique one. I always want to, but folks, and that's the thing, we don't push forward and we just live totally in the past. But if you don't appreciate some of these things, and the example I gave to my staff when I was growing up in Eastern Kentucky, my grandfather on the farm that I worked at every summer from when I was little till I was 18, I didn't realize all the things that he had done to make that a good experience for me. Just not when I was there as a youngster, but years later when I would come back riding the horses, riding motorcycles, all the trails that he did and all the paths that he did. And now, 20 years later since he's passed, of course, those are all grown up. And I wish I could go back as a 10, 12-year-old and be more thankful to my grandfather for all the things he did there to make sure whenever I arrived, he was in pristine condition. And now that I'm mainly the caretaker of that farm, I realize the work that's involved in doing that and how special it was for the people that did that for me that I just took for granted. And so I never want folks to take the things that we have for granted and think, well, that's going across every place across the United States. It really isn't. And KT is one of those, and actually KETS is one of those as well. So I want to share, and once again, I want you to brace yourself for this video. I laughed when I first saw it. I'd never seen these in 30 years. I did laugh out loud at myself and seeing myself. I did when I come out. And obviously for our staff, you've heard me talk about Waffle House a lot. Obviously, I didn't have the Waffle House talk down after those early days. I had not yet been to Waffle House, apparently, and had not got the Waffle House speak down. It was very techno-widgety, that was for sure. So, Megan, if you can show these early clips.
The statewide network will give every student and every teacher in every school easy access to whole libraries of information that no single school library would ever be able to provide. This network will give teachers and students access to a wide variety of the best educational software in the world. It will allow teachers to individualize instruction, and it will allow students to take charge of their own learning.
The ability to gather, deliver, access, and share knowledge is at the heart of this new system we call KETS. The significance is not in the number of computers around this room. It's not in the fancy software that gets developed, and it's not in the miles of fiber optic cable that we're laying across this state. The significance of this program lies not in technology, but in hope.
With this technology, we will be able to show our young people exactly what they're capable of. Their minds are going to be able to do so much more with this technology. And our teachers are going to be able to deal with our kids instead of so many administrative trivia tasks that they now are forced to do because they do not have this capability.
No, I'm not surprised because we've been working very hard. to get to this day. Many of us have. So it's not a surprise. I knew we could do it, and we're just beginning, quite frankly. I mean, this is a wonderful pilot program, but this is going to be done all across Kentucky in all of the schools. We're going to have an information backbone that will be the leadership in America. That's going to allow our workforce to be better prepared. Because of the quality of people we've got, give them the education to go with their own individual quality, and that makes for a really dynamite and a very positive situation.
Once again, just a very fun day in Shelby County. I think all that were involved, and once again, we had people all across the state there. If you didn't get a chance to see it, we taped a lot of it, and we'll also try to make that available to you through our CATS regional engineers, so you can share the day with them.
Now, I think there's another part of that, Megan, but before we go on to the second one, I want to give you some backdrop on what you just saw. So that was Governor Brereton Jones in the early 90s, and Sherry Gelsma was there. She was our cabinet secretary. And what you also saw was the early parts of it is when we did the first master plan, which by the way, this is the very first master plan. The original master plan is the line items, all the line items in there, people had never heard those terms before, didn't know what they were. So we were asking districts to put it in. And so what I was doing for every line item in the master plan, I went to our pilot site, which was Shelby County, and was showing an actual example what those were. So, I was at a every component. That's why you see me up in the ceiling. This video doesn't show it up in the ceiling, showing it. And also, apparently, I really like to use a pointer during that time. So it's a very, what was some of those other videos? I actually created the graphics in something called Harbor Graphics, all the graphics that were shown.
David, that wasn't a laser.
That was not a laser pointer. That was definitely I need to find that original pointer because I'm using my pointer to everything. Very, very militarized there as I was showing it. So Megan, if you could show the second one of those two. This is when we're first introducing all of our field staff. I think this is the one, and this one right here. Yeah, we're introducing all of our field staff, our CATS engineers. So this is at Shelby County where we're getting ready to show here. And that was our original site that we put in place. By the way, I had to bring my VHS system in to actually play these because no one had one.
Here we are at Heritage Elementary. This is where we started out several months ago, announcing Shelby County as a pilot site. And what's happening now is this place is now starting coming to life. We have now building wiring within the school, and then we're going to go wide area network with school to school. So we're going to start out taking you through the whole LAN type of process here in Heritage Elementary. The first area we're going to hit is what we call the main distribution frame.
I still got that touch.
Dude, you do? Are you serious?
I still got that touch, yeah.
I
still got that shirt.
To my left-hand side here, we have a main implementation phase, and we have 8 new individuals to help out with that implementation across the districts and across all the regions. I'd like to introduce them to you now. Starting on my left, your right, Jennings Paul out of region number 2. John Snyder out of region number 5. Chuck Austin, who's having a bad hair day today, out of region number 1.
Good afternoon.
And Philip Key in region number 4. These folks were hired mainly on their strengths of wide area networks, and Novell. As I traveled the state last October.
So obviously having a good time with Chuck. And Chuck, you had been here all of how long?
2 weeks.
You've been here 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And I did that to you.
Yes, you did.
And you stayed.
I did. Paybacks have been difficult.
But that was, we didn't have all the field staff on there. Chuck, Phil, you were there during that time. Mike Lettingham would come a little bit later and lead our district administrative system, which we call the DAS, which we watched that video yesterday of the folks there. And Dr. Boyson was our commissioner during those early years. And so we're on there with that. I've forgotten all that that we put in place here. But the fun part was all the stuff that we had talked about doing, we actually did. Going through every one of those items of saying this is our intention and just not did it, but did it in the time frame that we said we would do it in,
Exactly.
which was fun.
It's also interesting, David, to see some of the focus areas and how, we've stayed steady with those areas that are still some of our most important work today.
So I think the part I remember, I guess it was our original top 5, right? To where I asked all the districts, what was it? Their subjective and objective surveys.
Top 5 or top 15?
It was top
David?
15.
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
I've improved. I've brought it down from 15 to 5 now. Look at that,
Improvement.
But the part I do like about it, I was asking for district feedback, which I think is an important part. I think that's been a key part of our success. You said we had these core tenets, but I think the part that's allowed us to grow and stay relevant and succeed is our willingness to change. And I remember finding something that I shared is when they also did a survey of all the superintendents during this time, Ketz was picked as the least likely to want to succeed and be around. And I feel like, you see these quarterbacks that are in draft. I saw Aaron Rodgers. He was not recruited by any college, 0 Division I college. And Aaron Rodgers had to go on and play for junior college. And actually, someone watched him, a receiver play, and saw him. And then he wasn't drafted as high. And so he used that as motivation constantly to say, you don't think I'm very good? Well, we think let me show you on later on. And I remember thinking that was constant motivation, at least for us in those early years, to be picked dead last and to be now all these years later, the only one that really not only survived, but thrived and still around. Yeah. And so, Mark, do you remember those? You took a picture of those those things yesterday, top 5. Where are those?
Yeah, number 1 was technology integration.
Yeah.
So that's integrating different types of hardware, software, network connectivity into a functional system is what we refer to as. Existing technology usage. The use of existing technology, best technology development, and that's kind of got at best practices and best strategies. Educational internal networking, individually building wiring, building to building connectivity, making sure that everyone was getting connected, and then technology training. So that's quality training for technical supports.
Yeah.
Those 5.
Yeah.
Again, 5, not.
Yeah. That have stayed. I know. In a note, we Jerry Prince, who's with KDC, retired. I think last Friday, and they were having a retirement. It's Monday. Monday they had something for him, and I did a little video for Jerry. But I wanted to thank him because he was part of those early years. Obviously, he's a Stillwell Award winner in itself of putting the wiring in our school buildings, because Kentucky was not only the first to have internet to the district, we were the first to have all the schools wired and connected to the internet as well. Jerry played a big role in those early days and all the Eastern Kentucky and KDC districts, which was fun to send him a note of appreciation. So that was fun to go back in time. And about this time, someone, I think Clark also has, he's brought back to reality by someone pulling down, what is that? The stairs that go upstairs and he falls right through there. So I think that's.
Before we move on from the videos that we just highlighted, we did have a social question pop in. So from the audience, a question pop in, and then, so that's just a nudge. We did drop the Go Soapbox link in, so go jump out and participate in a survey question. But also, if you have a question, so David, the point was doing the math. So it's great to see that David has been criticizing Chuck for 29 years, 29 straight years.
That's right. So I came on when I was 31.
I was 28.
28. And you came a year later, I think, right? It was about a year later. You know what? We watched the rest of that. It wasn't like I was joking all the way through that. I was very serious. That's that one. I don't know.
You're not throwing away your shot. That's for sure.
He survived. It made him stronger. Yeah.
Exactly. And I got you back.
Yeah, he did.
I got you back.
Where?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there.
Well, speaking of getting back, John Logan, who is also was there with the earliest days of Ketz here in the Department of Education. Lisa Moore's another one of those in those earliest days when I arrived. But John, of course, you served a lot of different roles for us over the course of time. We definitely appreciate your efforts. But also, you are our Chief Mischief Officer as well. Besides being our lead technical architect, you're in charge of mischief, is the best I can probably phrase it. So, what mischief have you found?
So most folks know, I think, that David is amazing at keeping artifacts. Things from the earliest days of cats, and I do the same, but mine are more for morale building, I would say, than David. So, so we implemented a little blast from the past internal for our OET huddle, and I saw David's agenda, and he had blast from the past, so I sent him a picture that I had in my artifacts and said, "Hey, you may want to share this," and he delegated that right back to me. So over the years in KDE, there's a Kentucky Employee Charitable Campaigns Initiative. There's events that the department holds, and they change every year, and it's about making money for charities. It's a great cause, and I've done painting parties in the past. David's participated in those to raise money. And back in 2011 is the date I have on this one. I guess it was the commissioner. I don't know who organized it, Dr. Holliday at the time, but the department chose to sell raffle tickets through each office. So we have 8 or 9 offices in the department at the time, and people purchased tickets, and if they won, they got to throw a whipped cream pie in a person's face from the office, and the folks from that office voted on who that person, the recipient of the pie, would be. And the other offices had, usually it was the associate commissioner, but it didn't have to be. In our office, there was a tie with David and I. So it was decided that David and I each would receive a pie. And the lucky winner of the pie throwing was Damon Jackie. So I will share my screen if you can't hear me or the video, because all this is from the hip right now. Right now, I haven't tested any of this. Assume you can see the screen.
Yep, can see it.
So this is an example. We were in the lobby of the tower, and they laid down plastic, for 20 or 30 feet, and here's an example of one of the offices. Someone from the office is throwing a pie, and there was quite a few people down there, if I remember, 40, 50 people to witness this. That's Dr. Holliday receiving one. Joe McCowan, actually, we had a meeting with him this morning. And that's me and Damon Jackie, and of course, David enjoying me getting a pie in my face. So before I play this, I'll do a little bit of a setup. You see Dr. Holliday is back here in the green shirt, and there's other folks around there. And one of the people that worked for us at the time decided it would really be good if David's pie had a little extra in it. So it wasn't just whipped cream. It went from probably a 4 or 5 ounce pie to probably a 2 or 3 pound pie. We had just had a cookout at OET, and we had baked beans and coleslaw, and we had packets of salmon and tuna and mustard, and it was pretty fantastic. So the lady who had the table off to the side here that was handing the pies, we made sure that she knew that was special David pie. And she was actually nervous that David would get mad. And of course, I knew he wouldn't get mad. But my fear was at this moment, because that's me sitting in that chair, that Damon switched the pies. So I really thought I was fixing to get the pie. So let's, hopefully you can, my audio works. Let me know if it doesn't. So you can hear there's quite a few people down there. So we'll skip ahead a smidge. There's David.
Yeah, notice the difference in sound here.
Yeah, you actually had to be there, to be honest. So the funny thing to me is watching Dr. Holliday and some of them looking back here and seeing some of the stuff that came out of the pie.
That wasn't whipped cream.
It wasn't. It wasn't just whipped cream.
I'm blinded.
That's my favorite part, when David realizes that it wasn't just whipped cream. But I do have some zoom ins just in case someone didn't appreciate some of the stuff that he got hit in the face with. So anyway, I thought I'd share that. So
Yeah, Jeff,
Hey,
you looked at
no,
a couple parts.
hold
I
on.
wanna-
You-
go ahead.
He didn't explain it, David, that shirt had to be retired. You never were able to get the stink out of that shirt, I think. And also, I believe you still have some baked beans stuck up in your nostrils that you never were able to get out.
And you know, the thing is, it wasn't just from a cookout that was a day before. It was a cookout that probably had ruined food. I mean, that was such a stench. And I can remember there was a Holiday Inn right next to the building, going into there, and just people say, you don't smell good. I mean, you don't smell good. And I could not get it out, that smell out of it. It took years to get that smell gone. But that was, and the impact of it. I mean, that wasn't
the one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did forget to mention that David wanted to go back and look at all of the evidence to see, who actually did this. And these pictures show a little high five there. and that's John Hornbeck and Damon Jackie. That's not John Logan. So just so you guys know. So.
That's not my green shirt.
Yeah, I see Charlie Harmon. I see like Kevin Brown's back there in that picture too. So thanks for that fun blast from the past. Let's go on now to the Stillwell Award. So I do want to spend some time going through this one. This is obviously, when we thought of this back in the February timeframe, I was hopeful it would turn out like it has, and it has. You never know if folks will be for it and then be appreciative of it and do it like you hoped it would be done, where superintendents recognize their staffs, us recognize our staffs. I couldn't ask for it to go in a better way. And just from the coin that was developed, the wording of it that was done, and the way it was done. So we have a video of folks we've captured all the videos of it. So go ahead and roll that, and we can just talk through that. So this is our 2022 winner. We actually have also asked Doris Stillwell to join us. So I've asked our field staff to jump in to give some context where this is theirs, where I may not know it's their area. So Jody, is Jody on? Jody and Bruce? Are they on, Chuck? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on, but I'm not seeing the video. I may have to jump out and back in, David.
Okay.
Jody, get the pop out button.
On the top bar, hit the pop out button.
Hit the pop out button on the front screen. And this is for everyone else too. So is everyone seeing the video that we're showing? It's been put in here if you're not seeing it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one there. So this first time I've seen these as well. So if you are part of the field staff, but this is your area, let us know that. This looks Region 2, right, Bruce?
Yes, those are Region 2. Sorry, I had to pop out and pop back in as well. So
Okay.
that's Barron County. We had Allen County.
We had a lot of fun in Region 2. You'll see a couple of funny pictures here as they go through. A large group of folks from Barron County. And they had a great celebration. Many of these districts had technology department celebrations. Some of them had many of them had board meeting presentations from their board and their superintendent recognition. We also had our regional meetings throughout the state in which we had celebrations. So these are still some Barron counties. I'll kind of let you know. There's Steve Gump from Barron County. He is actually one of the greatest personalities in the state, and everybody loves Steve Gump.
I would say while these are running, if you've not sent any pictures and you've got some from your district, field staff still collecting these as well. So we'd love to have those.
Oh, yeah. There's Bowling Green, and that was at their Board of Education. And I had a blast as I traveled around the region. That's Breckenridge County, a new CIO. Butler County, Caverna Independent, Cloverport Independent, Cumberland County, and Davis County. Got a bunch from Davis County. Thinking of Davis County, many of these districts also blasted their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, had numerous pictures and celebrations throughout their entire social media presence in their districts. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so our intent is we're gonna, have these pictures just along with the names of the folks that have received the coins in our office and then in districts to be part of the Stillwell site. And so as Bruce mentioned, if you have pictures there, please submit those. We definitely want those folks to be recognized historically as they go back in time.
Steve Burton there in Davis County got to shake a lot of hands, got a
Yeah.
pretty good sized department. Of course, it's a big
Yeah.
district. That's
Yeah.
their entire department there.
Yeah, good team photo.
And there's Edmonson County. Of course, most
Yeah.
people in tech world know Brent Norris and Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
That's a newer CIO there in Elizabethtown Independent. Superintendent, a brand new superintendent in Glasgow, Chad Mellencamp, recognizing his tech staff. And Doug Robinson, superintendent in Grayson County, recognizing his staff.
I saw a sense of pride, the ones I participated in, and appreciation, because these are folks that normally don't get recognized unless it's going bad, right? Something's not working where it's up 99.99% of the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it was nice for them to be recognized in these kind of settings. I could tell they appreciated it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we had Greene and Hardin and Hart County. There's Ohio County. You can tell I had a blast. LaRue County, Freddie Newby, been around for a long time. Logan County, McLean County, Meade County, newer CIO as well. Buddy Brown there in Metcalfe County. Monroe County. Or Monroe County. There's Owensboro Independent. Large staff. I had the pleasure of going to their Board of Education meeting and presenting the awards to their staff there in Owensboro. Russellville Independent.
Hmm?
And he said no. Simpson County. Todd County, brand new CIO in Todd County. And then Warren County. Got a bunch from Warren County, so it's going to take a minute or two because it's pretty good staff,
Yeah.
great folks. Robbie Flora, the guy that's in several of these pictures, just left his position as CIO to take another position. So the lady there, Amy Buss, is kind of serving as interim until they get that position filled. Great staff there in Warren County.
Team photo there. Oh, I like folks that the Kisti event that took advantage of. It's Kevin Brown, down Jefferson County.
So David, Charlotte's out on vacation today, and she had shared, we're looking at some of her folks from Region 4 right now.
Okay. Okay.
And here in a moment, people are going to see a box that may confuse you, but they are donuts that someone decorated with red suspenders, not red stripes. They're literally suspenders down to the little connection straps.
Yeah,
You can
right
see them
there.
there. And then also some shirts
We
they
have
got
shirts.
made.
Oh,
Yeah.
those shirts are awesome.
But I wanted to throw out, I had one district that an employee posted something and they said they wanted to thank, this was months ago, they wanted to thank their superintendent and board for including their tech team in recognition for the Stillwell Award. And then I think this is key, what this person said. The drastic and immediate changes in education will be something talked about for many generations. The resilience and determination of educators to go to any length to stay connected to our children will also be recounted in our history.
That's wonderful and true. Yeah.
Some of those passing through are Rock Castle and Russell County. Science Hill is up now. Goes by so fast, it's hard for me to see the pictures. That's Matt's group.
It was Bracken County and of course Johnson
I
County here.
Got to do their part of that one. That was fun.
Is Russell Independent. A couple torsos from Russell Independent.
That's Floyd County.
Region 8, Floyd County.
That'd be part of that. That was
And there's some techs and the superintendent who were not able to be at the original board presentation. And Matt Adams, the CIO, that was Wes Turner earlier for Floyd, and that was Matt from Hazard. This is Jeff Coots from Jackson Independent, Doug Barnett, Jenkins Independent, Wes Moore, Knott County, and John Prophet, Lee County, Elbert Estep, Leslie County, Randy Bailey, Letcher County, and McGoffin County. They had their, they sent in their picture from their board meeting with their board members, and that is Jack Prater, new CIO, Brett Burns in Owsley County, who has a nice email signature with the Stillwell Award that I think is pretty neat. That's Tim Bobrowski, his wife Tina, Brabowski and Tanya Begley were the Owsley County recipients. Mike Smith in Perry County, Clayton Potter, Pike County, Neil Arnett, Pikeville Independent, and KVEC was so nice to have us there to take the pictures, and we had cake and a nice way to celebrate. They took some nice pictures of the award, and we were able to honor everyone in the region. Lou Brewer in Wolfe County.
Mike Lettingham. Oh, I don't know who's that guy. That's just fun to be able to do some of our staff here. So we did it during one of our OET team huddles, which we have monthly. So we do that the first week of the month, and then we do this one typically the third week of the month, which is a lot of fun for me to recognize our staff individually, you know, called out their names, and obviously their names will be listed down here. Hey, Bob. And, you know, for the most part, you can see just a great appreciation, just like we saw in the districts, of being recognized. So thankful for them personally during the pandemic, of making this as good experience as it could be. And obviously we had the tornadoes that action shot that played a role. And then obviously there's Doris there's Doris Stillwell. Give her one. Bill Coleman, Kevin Brown, and I'll talk about Kevin and Jason here in just a little bit, their roles that they played on, you know, and I'll just mention it now, for all the things that we asked for money-wise, and there's no other office that got more money for technology out of the federal funds than Office of Education Technology. And I do appreciate Kevin's role, and then Jason's role, Mr. Glass's role, both of the commissioners' roles, and as far as doing that and being just so supportive and understanding the importance and appreciation of what we were putting in place across the state, and how well how reliable it was, and made it, at least made it a viable option during those times, during the peak of the pandemic and even afterward. And we're a pretty flat organization in OET. We call the flattest. We don't have a lot of different levels of management. We're the flattest definitely of our size in KD, so we don't have branches. So you know, you'll see Phil's staff, Phil Coleman staff with the School Technology Services, and you'll see Mike Lettingham's division of School Technology Planning and Project Management, and Dee Dee Connor staff of School Data Services. And then there's not another division. We have two other organizations that do report to us. It's the field staff. Chuck leads the customer relations and emerging technology, and then Marty Park as our chief digital officer, with all of our, you know, our field staff along with those services, along with Bob Hackworth, you know, of course, our chief cybersecurity officer, and Lisa Moore and Janice Harris as part of the office. So very proud of all these folks, and got to recognize them. And not all were there in person that day. So we have piece by piece gone back and recognized them for their good deeds and good service across the state. So I do think it's very worthy that we take some time to thank those. And you know, this kind of culminates our Stillwell Award and Red Suspenders Day, because this was a day that last time I think we did this was 2015 or 16, is right after Bill Stillwell passed away, and it really is a day to recognize all the good deeds of education technology across the state. So we're kind of wrapping that up into the Bill Stillwell Award here. Obviously, these suspenders were actually Bill's suspenders that were given to me by his widow. So I appreciate wearing Bill's suspenders and these awards, and obviously his legacy lives on through the Stillwell. All these folks, I just will have such, you know, when you go through something intense, and I can remember the intense parts of my life, different situations, you just will never just forget the people that went through this with you during this time. And just try to take yourself back 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago what we were dealing with during that time. People somewhat take that for granted. I don't. For us, is I think I recall 97% of the folks that we had during that time stayed with us during that time. And also we committed to make sure they were okay as well. It was a two-way street. Early on in the pandemic, my commitment to our staff was, I want you to focus in on schools. This is in our Katie, the agency staff. You don't have to worry about your employment. You have a guarantee of that. So take your mind and worry off of that and just focus in on providing services to our schools and to our staff. And they did that. And so that was our two-way agreement with that. So I appreciate them staying during that time. And all the calls we had, and Jennifer, all the calls I can remember we had on sometimes a daily and weekly basis during those earliest days. Definitely appreciative of that team. We've even had one of our members, Michael Spence, pass away since that time. Always appreciate Michael and the folks that have moved on with us since. We have a pretty good retention rate of staff, but we have had some folks that moved on that do some other things, but they're one to recognize them with the Stillwell, even though they were with us during that time and had moved on, we circled back to them. I think we got them all. And I think all the awards have been given out across the state. I think every district, I know we had one district, I think last night, that was getting them out. So I think we crossed the finish line with everyone. Hopefully everyone's gotten them, or there's just a few left if that's not the case. Yeah, it's great behind the scenes person, right there. Laura. Yeah. Justin, you brought me a candy cane this morning. Thank you, Justin, for my candy cane.
You're welcome, David.
These are some of the folks that had left us since the time we gave them out. I wanted to recognize their good deeds. And I hope your districts did that too, the folks that were with you during that time, to make sure you circle back to them. And as our way of thanks, even though there's Michael Spence who's passed on. Didn't have my red suspenders on that day. Judy, got to catch up with you on this one, so it's good to have there. There's our OET team huddle outside our building. Good day. Thanks to all those that participated in that. And if you do have some pictures, please, with our field staff, please forward those on. Yeah, good stuff. That was good stuff. So now that we've given everybody high fives, I want to remind everybody about the top 5 feedback. That's due later in December 15th. You see, I was always big into getting feedback from our districts, which I think has been key to us. So what top 5 things that we do in the calendar year of 2022, what that top 5 thing we didn't do well or should have gotten to that we didn't, and which are our top 5 goals for 2023. Use those in a variety of ways. Let me know when we have every one of our OET staff and every one of our districts do that, where you're at specifically with you. So I read every one of those a couple of times. And then it helps me see how consistent are your answers with those around you, the districts around you, and the folks that work in your same teams, and then different areas of the state and state as a whole. And it doesn't have to be exact. There's some things, or there's one-off. So yeah, that's a top 5 that no one else identified. And then I'm always interested with how in sync what our staff lists as the top 5 things. How in sync is that with districts? And then I'm interested in how in sync we are with the KD different offices that we have. And then I take all those, that 360 view, and I go over it with the commissioner position. And so it does lay out, where we're going, help lay out where we're going for the following year tremendously, and what we cover in our summit that we have at KISTI every year. So that's going to be your Christmas gift to me is that. I'll be reading those during the Christmas, the New Year's, and holiday break. And then obviously we go through those and we identify those in the the January webcast and February webcast to share those with you. So I appreciate those that did that. So next up, we did this for our staff, but we're going to cover parts of it again with Sean Jackson and Marty Park. I want to give an introduction to what Sean's going to cover with the computer science report.
Hey, thank you, David. And that was awesome. Kind of flipping through some of those photos and pictures. And we also have some videos of some districts and celebrating the Stillwell work. And this segment where we're going to talk about our annual computer science report is definitely some Stillwell work as we work through the pandemic. So 2020, Senate Bill 193 launched a requirement for annual reporting of computer science growth across the state. We, of course, were huge fans of that. In fact, we had started some of that reporting internally 2 and 3 years before that. And so when the Senate bill launched, it was a high five for us to say, yes, that's absolutely what we need to be doing. We need to understand the growth across the state as we have more invitation to computer science learning for all of our students. And so a huge shout out to Laura Raganos for launching the Computer Science and IT Academy years ago, which handed off and kind of started us thinking. I know Laura, she explicitly remembers the whiteboard that we have outside in our office where we were starting to think about the elements and understanding the growth in industry certifications that our students were getting and to understand what kind of growth we were targeting per year. So fast forward where she handed that program off to Sean Jackson, and we were able to bring Sean in to lead our K through 12 computer science efforts, specifically to write and launch a K through 12 comprehensive computer science plan. And so we did that last year, and that is our marching orders as we move through the next years. And obviously this points to the growth in computer science areas in STLP that Jeff leads. And so there's a huge partnership and work that we're all pushing through the state, along with you as our district partners as we launch new programs. So Sean's going to get into the report a bit for this year and celebrate and highlight some of the growth areas and think computer science, learn computer science, and do computer science. Those are the areas that we're pushing on for growth of our students. So Sean, take it away and dive into some of the areas that we're reporting that we're very excited about. So go ahead, Sean.
No, thanks for that introduction and talking about the computer science plan. Yes, these are the marching orders, and it's all internally facing. It's what are the district or the individual offices within the Department of Education. What are we actively doing to make sure that we remove as many barriers as possible to the accessing of high quality computer science instruction for our students? So real quickly, again, Marty talked about the background of why we do this, Senate Bill 193, 2020, and that lists the very specific parameters that have to be reported in this annual report to measure the growth of computer science. Now, is this every data point that we could possibly pull from? No, we really go by what the language of that legislation stipulates, and it's all about that think, learn, do computer science. It's crafting the thought process behind how we are going to grow these programs across the state. So just looking at the landscape currently, about 92% of our school districts have access to at least one computer science course, and we look at course codes and pull that enrollment information from Infinite Campus, and this is holistic. They could be taking this in an online mechanism. They could be taking this at an area technology center. This could be a dual credit possibility, but we have students in 92% of our districts that are enrolled in some sort of computer science course. Now, you might notice that we're going with the maximum number of 170. We have removed K-8 districts from this metric and any of our DoD facilities. While we care about access to learning computer science, It's hard to track exactly how that manifests, especially at a K-8 level, where they may not be using a specific course code for that learning. And so we ask that question on our digital readiness survey annually to say, hey, are you providing access to K-8? And so 170 is the metric. The 79% have a complete career and technical education pathway, which we continue to modernize those pathways to make sure that they fit with what the industry sectors desire from these professionals currently. So when we talk about expansion efforts, we hear a lot about we need more cybersecurity professionals. We need data science professionals. Well, we're actively working and engaging on how we best redefine those pathways for the structure of what we already see in Kentucky. And how can we get that quickly moving? Over 22,000 unique enrollments in computer science across the state. That is just awesome. We have seen year over year from the very first iteration of this report in 2018, right around 3.5% annually increase of the number of students accessing and taking advantage of these courses in districts. And so if you take that average, so about 3% increases. So high schools or ATCs access to at least one computer science course, 349 of those individual locations. And then we also, the language of the legislation stipulates that we have to report on the access to advanced placement possibilities, 82%. 82% of districts or ATCs take advantage of the advanced placement coursework. These 9 policies are just, again, ways to measure the fundamental access to computer science. Code.org came up with these 9 policy points that show that computer science is a fundamental, it is fundamental to the organization, to Kentucky Department of Education, and to learning in the state. And so we have met 7 of 9 of these. And, the progress on these items has yielded the progress we've seen forward in the number of students taking and accessing computer science, and the number of districts saying this is a priority for us. Looking at the landscape, if you look at all across the state of Kentucky, this is what the landscape looks like. We have seen some ebb and flow in these areas where they may have had one course last year and now they don't. We understand that progress in this space is difficult in a time when we're having difficulty recruiting all teachers to the field. And so making this a priority in the districts that have added or continue to add these courses, kudos to you for making it happen for your students, because you're making it a priority. We see it as a priority for the Commonwealth, not just in an education mindset, and talking about industry and the possibilities that these students will have moving forward. And those little pin drops are districts that offer AP Computer Science, either AP Computer Science Principles or AP Computer Science A, that Java programming course. And real quick, looking at this demographic snapshot, we set forth in the computer science plan earlier this year that we wanted to see equal representation or representation of students demographically in our computer science courses. We wanted to have that equal to the representation we see across the state. So if we have, if 16% of our students statewide are on an IEP or some kind of special education program, we want to see that, or at least approach that metric within our computer science courses, because we do know that those students can succeed in these courses. We were called out and highlighted during Code.org's rollout of their national report for moving forward in these demographic categories. 11% of our students statewide, identify as African American. We have 11% of our students in computer science are identified that way. We are equal in the representation from courses and across the state. And you can see all of those metrics. Where we don't see the representation in line with what we're seeing across the state is between males and females. And we continue to push hard on that and encourage our girls, especially in middle school, because there's that middle school cliff that all STEM areas experience, where for some reason we see interest and enrollment in STEM curriculum drop. And so we continue to push on these facts and highlight areas of opportunity where girls can get involved. And of course, we also provide course by course enrollment numbers from across the state. I'm going to jump real quick because this is just part of that legislative mandate. I'm going to jump real quick to who's teaching computer science. We have something in the state of Kentucky that nobody else has. And I know, we talk about those things all the time. What are we doing that nobody else is? Well, that approval for teaching computer science course designation, we've enabled teachers from any high school content background to participate in a year-long professional development program with a Kentucky computer science academic standards aligned curriculum, and then be able to teach any computer science course that they want to across the state. We have 80 teachers across the state taking advantage of that and actively teaching computer science in some way, shape, or form. And so we have 310 of our teachers across the state from backgrounds like English, social studies, special education, PE and health, library media specialists. They're coming from all these backgrounds and making these courses available. We also do have to report on teacher gender for this item and the terminal degrees. But the important part is that we continue to take advantage of removing the barriers from our position to make sure that you guys can easily roll in these computer science courses. We've had great success with districts just saying, you know what, we have somebody interested, let's let them teach. And so thank you for all the work that you do. We're going to continue working and supporting you in any way that we can, from industry certifications to paying for AP exams and making this possible for all of our students. Yes, Marty, I know I took a little longer than what you said, but
no, it's awesome.
I love talking about this stuff, and reach out to me anytime. I want to help your districts. I want to help your schools. I love working with students in Kentucky.
So thank you so much, Sean. Emphasis on inviting more girls to computer sciences, number one. And then also socioeconomic status should not be a determining factor of whether you're invited to computer sciences. And so we want to increase those. So Sean, I'm going to share the Go Soapbox question that we have available. And let's just share that real quick, because I think it's very telling and appropriate for us to look at the number of districts who are continuing to act on this or starting to plan the action, as well as the number of districts that you are hoping to work with to develop their programs. And that's one of the roles that you perform, and you do it so well. I do want to mention that we collaboratively work with our career and technical education team, as well as our educator licensure and effectiveness team on this annual report. It is a huge collaboration piece, and everything that we're doing in the comprehensive computer science plan is in collaboration with those offices and other offices across the Kentucky Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I want to give a high five to Sean. Sean, I got to work with you, and we were part of judging a computer science event and coding event, and just seeing your work being with us. And obviously I got to work with you many years ago at Mason County as this energetic teacher that was doing some pretty cool things. And we are very fortunate to have you in this role.
Thank you.
I am 10 levels of impressed by you and what you've done for the students across the state and what you've done in a short period of time. And Laura, thank you for your early work that we built upon.
She laid the foundation.
Level. I really, really appreciate it. You know, we are fortunate to have both of you. And the talent, you know, that we have is off the charts. Let's share a little bit. Before I talk about the Infinite Campus, I want to circle back. I saw a post by Lisa Moore, who keeps up with who's turned in what as far as our top 5, and we have 92 districts that have turned it in, which means we have 79 that have not. So do not wait till the last second. I find if you're waiting till the last second, last day, you're hurrying it through and not giving it the due diligence it deserves. And so do not wait till the last second. Do not wait till the last day to get these through. And obviously, if we see it, you wait until the last second, last day, and not giving it a good effort, you'll be given a chance to do it again. But so give it your best effort going through. The thing that helps me, and I appreciate Lisa Moore putting this together for our OET staff and our district staff, is I forget all the things we do in a course of just of 3 months, let alone 12 months. And so to go back and have all those summaries together are very helpful. I went through them last night. At least I went through all our OET huddle summaries that you put together and all of our district staff summaries again. And it's just a good reminder. It's not to guide you, but it's a good reminder of the things we've been up to and doing the past 12 months, along with the areas that we can improve on. So I highly encourage you. It didn't take a long time to read through those. And Lisa, I know it takes a long time to put all those together. First of all, to write them originally every month, and then put those together collectively. So please give that the due time it deserves. Our Infinite Campus event conference was close to 2 weeks ago. I just want to applaud those in our districts that attend that, along with our OET staff. Charlie Cratch is the CEO of Infinite Campus, and he gives an opening to talk there. And I got to meet with Charlie, which I normally do after he gives that opening talk for a couple hours. But, Charlie really can recognize across the United States, once again, how unique we have it here in Kentucky. Because what he sees is you have, of course, it was the highest number we've ever had attend, which was great in itself. But this mixture of KD level staff or a DOE level staff, along with district staff, attending an event together, presenting a good part together, and equally trying to help each other out, is unique in the United States. It's not that we got it down 100% perfect, nothing is, but the relationship that you all have with each other within a region, you obviously have within your school district, but the relationship also between the DOE and OET in districts is really pretty special. And obviously Charlie recognizes, that doesn't happen overnight, and how unique that is in the United States when it comes to a site like this, and just trying to get people to meet together in a setting like that, and it just doesn't happen. The other thing that he said that's pretty meaningful to Kentucky is there's a new partnership between Infinite Campus and Tyler Munis. So what each has decided to do, I don't know, you guys keep an eye on you guys back there. I can see you guys here. Which each company has decided to do is Munis was involved with the student information system, and Tyler was involved with the financial management system. And both of them have agreed to stop doing that and just really work together to integrate their products. And so Kentucky obviously has hit a grand slam with that, because that's our product standard across the entire state for both those. And as you know, Kentucky is pretty unique in the United States, having product standards across the entire state, which helps drive down costs. The efficiencies are tremendous. People go in district to district. There's not the retraining, and Charlie sees all those types of things. But now we're actually going to be part of those discussions of which key pieces of those two architectures do we want to be connected. And obviously, Chuck, we're involved with this piece with the Connect User Experience. Is it going to be the Infinite Campus piece feeds into Tyler Munis? Is it Tyler Munis feeds into Campus? Will we have a third component there? And I explained that to the CEO. When I was talking to Charlie was there, and he understands that. The other components that was presented that we're very well positioned for is Infinite Campus is also, now this agreement with Tyler took 2 years. So it's takes a while to get those done in agreements. So they were also working with 2 other major components. One is a instructional content provider, a major one, along with a major assessment provider as 2 other components that will be part of the Infinite Campus suite. So that's, don't have the names of those and can't share the names of those, but those are major players in the industry that will, I think, service just not us well, the other states well. We know Nevada was the next state that really did something statewide as far as the student information system. They've heard me, when I meet with my peers of the 49 states, I said, I don't get why you are not, from efficiency purposes, going to standardization with your financial management systems, information system, and they understand the pluses of that. They just don't, it's the effort to do that. Then I think even Charlie talked about the Georgia, where the Georgia folks said, well, we would do that if the DOE would say it was for that. And then when he talks to DOE, he said, we would do that if the districts were for that. But, trying to get those 2 to come together is really, really difficult. So the next state to ever do that was Nevada. And the next state, it looks like, with high probability, is North Carolina. So Nevada picked Infinite Campus, and it appears, and we'll see, that North Carolina would. And that's a good teammate we've had for many years. There's very few states that have statewide approaches like Kentucky, but obviously Nevada is now one. North Carolina has been one historically, and Delaware has also been. We've seen Wisconsin and Georgia do those as well. So that's I thought that was incredibly well-run event. I appreciate our staff for the great sessions and the work there. Appreciate Infinite Campus for being the host and leader of that, and obviously our districts that were there as well. That was a really good event. So next up, I want to circle back with you on, bring it up here. Let me share something. I want to circle back on my follow-up about the article that ran in the Lexington Herald. So part of this is just to educate you on some things. Can people see my screen? All right, so let's talk about it a little bit. And to our OET staff, you heard me talk about this by having more information available to it. So I guess it was just over 2 months ago, the Lexington Herald ran an article, and I'm going to read from that. I took screenshots of it. And actually, I was on the way back from a family vacation, and I was informed by a couple of our staff members who saw this headline: Kentucky has 165 districts with slow internet. And by the way, here are the 10 slowest. Wonderful. And then if you take a look at their writing in it, it says Stacker compiled a list of school districts in Kentucky with the slowest internet speeds using the data from Connect K-12. And here is their ranking. So I think we told you is, I think it's important that you follow up on and challenge that when some information is incorrect, especially when it's that far off. We've gone up to, I won't go over it again, is we keep up very closely with the internet speeds, and are they meeting the needs of our districts? The best probably in the country at doing that. We're very frugal with it, but very in tune with what districts' internet speeds are needed, and we upgrade those as they show the need versus just buying a bunch that just sits there, which apparently some other states that are doing that are not being called out for it. But that article came out, and so I want to circle back and say we're the opposite of that. And so when we contacted the Lexington Herald, and this is my understanding, I talked with them directly on this. There's parts of it I did, I'll share with you, with Stacker. It apparently is the Lexington Herald editor was not aware this article was run in their paper. And you figure, how is that possible? Well, there's a company called McClaskey that owns the Lexington Herald. And if you take a look at McClaskey, just do a Google search on them, which I'm not going to go up here, looks like they're in about 13 states, but they don't own every paper in the state. So McClaskey just is the only paper they own in Kentucky is Lexington Herald. Gannett owns the Courier Journal and all the other ones that are local there, that are out there. But what is in common with all these newspapers that have happened since the internet's happened is the difficulty for newspapers to survive. Their staffs have been tremendously reduced. I know when I started 30 years ago, is the staff that I remember that just with education writers that would really investigate this and really try to make sure they were accurate and they were reporting, the numbers have been reduced by 95%. So what a Lexington Herald will tell you, and even a McClaskey who owns them, will say they are desperate for content, which I'm fine with that. Our number one ask was, can you not approach us before you run something to make sure at least you get a different perspective, especially these 10 districts they identified. None of those 10 districts were approached. Obviously, we provide the internet service for all districts. We weren't approached. So that's a 101 of journalism. And everyone we talked to, from Lexington Herald, McClaskey to Stacker, acknowledged that was a big fault that they didn't do. They didn't follow up and actually make sure what they got, that someone had written was accurate. The other key part, just to educate you, now, what I recognize with Lexington Herald, the guy said, well, if there's a Lexington Herald writer, you see their name, they take ownership for that, but they don't take ownership for these things. And so when this article ran, you could see by Stacker. I didn't have a writer, just said by Stacker. So I would just give you words of wisdom whenever you're reading anything on the internet or anything based on media, is really take a look at the source they're basing it on. But my challenge to them, okay, you didn't do the quality assurance, but who does quality assurance? Who's responsible for this article? So last week I did talk to Stacker, so that's new for OET staff, myself and our main communication person here at the Department of Education, Tony Tapman. And so we started asking, how did you come up with, first of all, slow? But I want to take you to this. So they talk about this article right here, which I think is an important one. And so here is, if you go to Connect K-12, it will show this, and it will show Kentucky is only 15% of our schools are at the 1 megabits per student, per second per student, only ahead of Rhode Island. So, and this chart down here shows the same thing. So as far as what we bought, that is true. We have bought one of the lowest percentage, they got Rhode Island, the lowest percentage per student in the United States. However, it's important that apparently whoever the writer of Stacker was, they didn't look at this portion. What you're able to go to, and tell me if you can see the stuff where I'm going here now. Can you see Kentucky? Can you everybody see that? Okay. So this lays out over the course of time where people keep on buying this stuff nationally. You can see we bumped it up definitely during the pandemic. But mainly, once again, our model is we buy only what we need. So if you go on down there, here's an important part that no one from Stacker apparently read. And this was one of the main fussing points. Whenever this data would come out, I'd always fuss about, just because we're not buying, we're not at 1 megabit per second, doesn't mean we're bad. This means we're being frugal and only buying what we need. And if you read this about connectivity, it talks about stuff like that. And in fact, it recognizes us as being very efficient in what we do. So be honest with you, instead of an article talking about we're the worst in the country or second worst in the country, we actually should have been applauded for being the best as far as buying what we truly need. So when I met with this writer, this main writer from Stacker, I said, who came up with the headlines? And so just to educate you all on this, is even in newspapers, the people that write an article aren't the ones that necessarily come up with the headlines. They have a whole group of folks that try to jazz up these headlines. So even from paper media to any kind of things you can click on, keep in mind, this is a group, their goal is to get you to click on it. And that writer, the person that comes up with the headline, doesn't necessarily talk with the person that wrote the story. Their goal is to jazz it up and to get people to open it up. So always keep in mind, anything that has a headline, and I would say this is with audit reports too, I've seen people try to jazz those up, is really keep in mind that may not really be in sync with what the writer says. And obviously, with ConnectEd, what they wrote here, ConnectEd does not say anything anywhere in the report that these are the slowest states or this is the slowest here. In fact, it recognizes us here for actually being very efficient with what we have. And so I asked the writer or the main guy at Stacker, I said, who came up with SLO? Was that the Lexington Herald? Was that McClaskey, or was that with you all? He says, that was us. So, well, do I expect these folks to go back and say, I'm sorry, and write an article in Lexington Herald that says, oh, we got it wrong? You think that's going to happen? That's not going to happen. No one's done that, you know, in this age, no one says, hey, listen, I got that wrong. No one really apologizes. You always will hear they double down, which is what bothers me in this time of you just got to, you can't say you're sorry or you messed up. And so it's the same thing with this. Is no articles going to come out to you 10 districts who were thrown under the bus. Nothing's going to come out from us state level that corrects that, I suspect. You know, this writer, this main guy that was in charge of it, he wasn't the writer, he was in charge of it, of the writers of Stacker, which has been around for 5 years. And the main reason they were birthed was that all these staffs and these papers are gone, so they fill in that gap. So he said he was going to talk to his writer that came up with this to change that is slow. But here's the analogy that I used with him. Last week, as you know, most people, it was my birthday. And I was getting ready to go out that day. So this was on my birthday. So it was a few hours before that. I said, you know, I'm getting ready to go out for a steak at Malone's. Now, I don't do that very often, maybe once a year. It's top quality. It's kind of Ruth Chris kind of thing. Ever been around? So I don't do that very often. And so I told him, I said, now, when I go to Malone's tonight, I will probably order a 12-ounce steak. That will fill me up. I am not starved if I don't get a 50-ounce steak or a 72-ounce steak. Now, steak is kind of like the internet. If you buy a certain amount, you don't get to take that home with you. And I said, there's no doggy bags here. So if I order a 50-ounce steak, I got to throw it away immediately. I don't get to take that away. So am I being a good steward of my personal funds by buying a 50-ounce steak every time I go out? Let's say I do that daily. Or should I buy the 12-ounce steak that fills me up? I'm not, slow. I am not starving by buying a 12-ounce steak. And he says, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I said, yes. So just because we're buying what we actually need and not buying what we don't need, another 65%, doesn't mean we're starving or slow. So, I used, the highway thing, but I said, personally, would you buy 65% more internet at your home and pay for that you weren't using? He says, well, of course not. I said, we're not either. Why would we do that? Why would we go out and buy that? So a lot of things we'll try to explain is like the pieces here to where we have efficiency. We have one student information system, one financial management system. The product standards we have does allow us to be a lot more efficient in putting things in place than the other states. What do you guys laugh?
Hackworth's comment in the chat.
Okay. Steak is like internet and fiber menu. That's true. It's true, Bob. Yeah. So he got it. So there's not going to be any kind of, oh, we're sorry about that. But I think it's important when you have that. And it did take a lot of my time to go down the chain, because we now met with the Lexington Herald editor, their main editor. We've now met with McClaskey. We now met with Stacker to say, in going forward, before you write an article about our school districts or about statewide specialty technology, can you not approach us first? So I know they have people constantly coming and going from those sites there, but I wanted you to know I did follow up on that. I don't know, will come out of that any kind of corrections with it, but now going forward, that that we try to do something about it. Yeah. Let's go over some of our other Go Soapbox questions. So just so you know, is we're gonna stop filming here just for a little bit. We're gonna go to a closed session. So we're gonna stop doing YouTube, and we're gonna turn off the live Teams meeting, because we're gonna talk about cybersecurity. And so we don't want to broadcast that out amongst ourselves. We don't want to record that. So those will just be the folks that stay on. We're going to talk about that. Bob Hackworth has some things that he wants to share that I want us to share, that we've taught, that some new information that we've received, that and just share some words of wisdom with you before we break. And we don't want to share those with the cyber criminals that may be watching our YouTube broadcast, nor put that on our link of what we have. But I do want to, before we go to that, is actually show the other Go Soapbox questions. So if you can bring those up too. Okay, so go to number 2. So this is, Mike Lettingham, you want us to kind of cover these. So that's good.
Oh, so yeah, we've got training scheduled. So we want to get an idea of how many people are going to be attending those and really bring attention to the fact that those are scheduled and available for folks to participate in. So it's good to see that we've got people planning on doing that.
Yep. Still the number 3.
That's additional trainings.
In person. So this is,
we're excited about in person.
Yep.
Meetups.
One of the best maximized in the United States always have been in E-rate funds. Try to make sure we don't put them in
I'll
jeopardy.
talk
We try to
about-
make sure we don't put them in jeopardy.
So I'll talk about this one a little bit more. Because I see that it says here 91% are saying no, that they do not intend to submit a lease. But I was thinking I seen something that showed a pretty good number that were planning to submit a lease. So let me just go ahead and speak to, for those who are, we want to very specifically remind you that those need to be submitted in a timely fashion. And we currently have that process identified as a minimum of 22 days that it takes from the time you submit that lease for you to get an approval back. That's assuming everything is correct. Meaning that nobody has to go back to the district or have the district get with the vendor that's providing the services associated to that lease and have edits made, corrections made, stuff that was omitted, put in, and so forth. So my recommendation is that you really plan on a month or more of having that lease submitted. And I guess I really encourage you to follow the guidance document and the checklist, which is posted on the website to KE. Certainly, I know provide additional detail information on this topic, but this is not something to wait until the last minute for. And I mean, we've got to be very blunt with the fact that if you wait till the last minute, you're jeopardizing having an approved lease before the E-rate application filing window closes. There's no guarantee that you're going to get that back, especially if it has things not completed correctly on it, or things left off of it and so forth. So be very attention to detail on completing it correctly and submitting it in a timely fashion. So again, that information will be posted to KEs. I know we'll talk about that more specifically with you in smaller groups. And in our training, we will as well. Go ahead, David.
You should not underestimate districts, the long amount of time it takes for it to go back and forth between lawyers. So not only filling it out, you got to keep in mind, lawyers going back and forth on language typically take forever. You between who you're buying it from, whoever gets finalized, that between our legal staff, although they know there's a tight shot clock on it, I find it over and over again a significant and overwhelming underestimation of how long it takes to go through the process. And then everyone's, because you're going to lose E-rate money, and so everyone getting it on the high end of the radar screen when you're starting to lose it. Do not wait. Do not wait. We can't guarantee. And so there is a great, probability you will, if you don't do it in a certain time frame, taking all those in consideration of getting it approved. Mike, is there anything we got, John, here you want to talk about the RFPs?
Yeah, let me go ahead and hit on a couple other things real quick here. Obviously, RFP update. We've got, as everybody is aware, an active procurement RFP activity going on for our next generation K-12 internet, which is also related. It has E-rate implications, so that's an in-process open procurement. Not really a whole lot I can say about that other than that is still an active open procurement RFP. We are currently in the department working on a couple other that I think folks need to be aware of, and I think we've mentioned them. One is the SEEK, which is the system that handles the funding for all districts. There's multiple things that make up what we call the SEEK system. That handles the calculations and all the contributing factors for how funding is done for all schools in the state and other contributing functionality and things. It's a pretty intense and massive collection of stuff. So we're working on pursuing a next generation of the SEEK system. We've mentioned a couple of different times the connected user experience. We're working on what the procurement path will be for what we do with connected user experience, and I would call that very likely an RFP. And I think we've spoken to it that way, and so you'll learn and hear more about that. And I know that we're capturing districts' input into that through the field staff, and as we work on that, what I'll call the preliminary prep and planning for how we'll pursue that going forward. And again, I know we've talked about that separately, and we'll continue to do so. We do have, I just want to mention real quick, we do have a couple other areas where we're looking at potential of RFP or what our procurement mechanisms are going forward. And I just want to remind folks that as we have our existing contracts that we use, whether they're state contracts or they're CATS contracts, which would make them a product standard, we look at those regularly, especially when they're in a position of being under renewal periods, where we have the option of whether we renew them or we don't renew them. And so we continue to look at those and evaluate those as we go into whether we do or don't do a renewal going into each new fiscal year. So we've got a few other things that we're looking at, and so there's liable to be some more discussion on some things that we're looking at about whether we renew them or don't renew them, or whether we pursue a different procurement opportunity, which would obviously establish a different product standard for some of the things we've got going on. So you may get pulled into some individual conversations and an opportunity to provide input into some of those things. But that's a regular thing that we do. Under the idea of contracts, I want to mention that we're continuing to implement the education teacher licensure system, which was awarded under a new contract in the last year, and that's very actively in process of being implemented. We've already mentioned the E-rate. E-rate's coming up. Everybody be prepared, plan to take the opportunity to be a part of the training and be again well prepared to do your applications. We expect a lot of activity for this E-rate application season, if you will. And then the last thing I'll mention, not really I need to say much about it. CATS offers continues to be in process. We've done the first offer, which was $9 per ADA, and this second offer will be $12 per ADA. It'll be in the probably March timeframe, early April timeframe. And again, we've mentioned that a couple different times. So I think David, that hits on the things I'd want to mention this morning.
Right. Thank you. And we'll Bob, we'll show the answer to question 5 when we break. And about that topic here. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I want to say for those that are not going to stay around for the our special section on cybersecurity, I hope you do have a good Christmas break and New Year's and holiday break. We sincerely appreciate all your efforts during the past 12 months, and obviously for those who've been here longer before that time. So hope you're doing well and continue to do well going forward. So we'll see you all later.